my neighbor across the canal from me was having a boat lift built and a dock, and on January 7th a barge left his property in the canal and started heading south down the canal and got maybe, I don't know, 100 yards or so down the canal, and the barge tipped over and sunk in the middle of the canal. This video is one that I filmed over the next 3 days, the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th, and it has taken me until now to be able to get this ready for publication, and today is the 22nd of January. If you like this video, please press like and subscribe to my channel. My channel usually has things having to do with real estate here in Central Florida, on the Gulf Coast of Florida. So if you like it, like and subscribe. Otherwise, enjoy. There was a barge in our canal. They were working on building a boat lift and a dock for one of my neighbors across the canal. And they had two barges there, and one of the barges left, was heading out of the canal, and it looked like it was taking on water or something, and the boom swung around and caused the boat to become even more unstable and listing even more to the starboard side than it had been. And it wound up turning all the way over and sinking right there in the middle of our canal. One of my neighbors has posted a movie of the actual sinking of the barge, and I will link to that in this video so you can see the actual barge sinking. But this video, it's quite long. I encourage you to fast forward through the sections that may get boring to you, but I documented as much of the salvage slash refloating, whatever you want to call it, effort that went on for 3 days. This happened on the 7th. They worked on it a little bit on the 7th, and then the 8th all day, which was a Saturday. And then on Sunday the 9th, they finally got the barge up, and they brought it back to the job site where they originally started out at. And when I look out my window right now, the barge is still there, but they're still doing some finishing touches, it looks like, on my neighbor's dock. So I fully expect that to leave. I'm not really sure why it was taking on water, but anyway, I'm just going to get to it. I'm going to go ahead and start the video and let you see. Let me get to the there. So this is right after the barge had flipped, and if you can see my cursor here, this is the barge in the water. Looks kind of small, but I think it's about maybe 20 feet long, 10 feet wide. Once the company that was doing the work to bring the barge up got here, I heard him saying that it was about 15 feet of water there, although my depth finder, I always see 8 to 10 feet there, so I don't know what the tide was at this point.
Looking at that, they got to get the water out of it.
Yeah.
They need to pump it.
Yeah.
I thought he's got a water pump on there. I'm surprised they don't have an outlet into the bottom of that thing to pump water out of it. But I know it's had water in it because it's been lisping.
Yeah, sometimes there's some commentary going on in the background, and I'll be quiet while that's going on.
With those things.
Yeah.
So
That's between me and another one of my neighbors.
it couldn't couldn't level it.
At this point, I'm sitting on his dock. He had a much better view from his, not on his dock, I'm on his back deck. And you can see this is the second barge from the same company.
I went out there and helped, but I didn't know whether I'd be in the way or...
And they're really just out there collecting everything that fell off the barge. Things floated away. There were cans, gas cans. Luckily, they were all sealed, and so no fuel was spilled from the gas cans. I'm sure there had to be some oil or gas possibly that leaked out of some of the hydraulics that they had on the barge and things like that, but it didn't really seem to be too bad in our canal. There was a little bit of a sheen at a couple of points in time, but I'm not an environmental expert and I don't claim to be, so but you can see here he's went over to the seawall. Yeah. And they're loading stuff off of the barge up onto the seawall there that they've pulled out of the water. And like I said, this is quite a long video. I'm not going to talk through much of it. I'm just going to let it run. If I see something interesting, I'll cut in.
Camera there filming.
Fast forward if you want. I'm going to try to also go through and put chapter marks on it. So if you're watching it on a device where you can go from chapter to chapter to chapter, you should be able to pick the things that might be more interesting. Floating this barge, getting it back up out of the water is a long process. Now this is after the towboat showed up.
Yeah.
This is Saturday morning. I'm walking around. I wound up filming this with 3 different cameras. I didn't know it was going to take so long, and I kept running out of battery on my original camera. So some of it is on a sports camera, like it's a GoPro knockoff, and then some of it was using my gimbal and some of it was not using my gimbal. And some of the cameras did not have the ability to zoom very well, very smoothly. Now we're standing out, getting ready to walk out on the dock. We're watching the towboat. The guy that runs this towboat out of the Hudson Harbor is just amazing. He pulls a lot of people that get stranded out in the Gulf or anywhere around here. Him and his crew are the ones that go out and rescue a lot of people. I always recommend to anybody who has a boat to go ahead and sign up with Towboat USA. Towboat US, I guess it is. I'm reading the side of the boat there. There's also Seatow is another company, but I never see a Seatow boat in here. I think that Towboat US, they actually have this boat here stationed in Hudson Harbor. So this is the one that everybody calls. Everybody signs up for their annual plan. They'll still come get you if you don't have the annual plan, but you pay by the mile or something probably. I don't know. I've never had to be towed. But he's setting up here now. They've basically hooked up some cables to this boat, to this barge. The barge, as you can see, the barge overnight sunk down into the silt, into the bottom of the canal, and is completely covered. The tide is a little bit up at this point, but it's mostly, I think most of it was that it sunk down into the mud, which is going to make their job a lot harder to do to get this out. You can see him now firing up his engines, and he's just basically trying to see if he can pull it. Being here in person when this was going on, there was a lot of water moving. He was not wide open throttle on his boat, but he had it cranked up pretty good. And he has two motors on the back of that boat. I've seen him pull in some pretty big boats with that boat. So, and you can see he's realized he's not going to be able to move it. He just,
They're gonna put float bags on it.
yeah, he just said he was going to put some float bags on it, try to raise it up. At one point during this process, I heard them say that each float bag would support 4,500 pounds or provide 4,500 pounds of flotation. So if they put 2 bags on there, that's 9,000 pounds. But this barge was made out of steel, so I don't know how much the barge weighs, and then you add to that the fact that it's sunk down into the mud. It's pretty heavy. Not to give away the ending, but they wind up putting a lot more bags on it, a lot more bags than 2 to get this thing up, and when they finally do get it up out of the water. This scuba diver in the water there works for Towboat US as well.
Way here. He said he was going to put some bags on it. He said he was going to put a bag on it. So this will be there. I'll try to float it out. They put those bags on them and they pump air into them.
It'll take more than one.
Yeah.
Unless he's got a big one.
You ever watch any of those rescue videos on YouTube?
No.
Where they got these guys that all they do is travel around and they have sonar on their boats and they find cars. They solve cases where people have been missing, some cases 20, 30 years.
Oh,
And,
yes.
and they'll find those cars under there, and then they come out and put float bags on them and pull them up and winch them out. The car gets full of silt. It weighs, 5 times what it did before it went in the water.
Oh, yeah. You can actually see something from there.
Yeah. It looks like the boat either tipped or sunk down further in the mud because last night, just before dark, it was still sticking above the water.
And, I'm wondering if it had air trapped in it, and then as the air actually left it,
It was replaced by water.
yeah, it just kept going lower and lower,
Yeah.
along with the water coming higher and higher.
Yep. Well, the tide had already started moving out, so I thought it was going to be okay. And I came out here, and it looked like about, 5, 6 inches was still out of the water. And So then I went back in the house, and then I came out, I don't know, about 2 o'clock in the morning, and was looking for my house. I didn't come down here, but I was looking for my house, and I could not find it. It had a spotlight on it.
Yeah, I had that light on it, and then right after dark, I came down, and I think it was still out of the water at that time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it was right after dark. It was still out, because I came out after it had gotten dark and took my spotlight from my dock and shined it down here, and I could still see it.
you could?
Yeah.
I had my spotlight right there at the corner, right where that was. I couldn't see it.
Yeah. Well, I had perfectly one of those houses over there on Lee side. There was lights in the house, and I got a reflection off of the water from the house too. And I could just make out the corner of it still sticking up out of the water there.
Well, that was why I couldn't see it, because those lights were coming right at me, and they were
in the wrong.
blinding me
They were getting you, yeah.
Yeah, rather than making a silhouette.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought. There was somebody from a boat being down level. I thought those lights coming across there would cast a shadow, and somebody could see it.
Yeah.
Until it went totally under.
Yeah. Yeah. Once it was down so low, I was worried somebody was going to hit it.
I watched Tony left, and of course it was still visible when he left, and he saw it.
Yeah.
And then we came back in, and everybody got excited. I told Anne Marie, said, no, Tony saw it. He knew where it was at.
Yeah. Yeah. I told when he was going by my dock, I yelled at him and asked him if he was going to go fishing on the new reef. I don't think he heard me because he says, "Yeah, I see it." So, but he had his music going and stuff.
Yeah.
And his motors.
He's pretty cognizant about what's going on. So and that's why I told Anne Marie, said, don't get excited. Just don't. He knows it's there.
Yep.
The one I did worry about was the boy that goes fishing.
Yeah, I was worried because I didn't know if he was coming back in. And
yeah, he's new to the area, and I worried that he might decide to go out and didn't know it was there.
Yeah.
You see all that stuff floating around the boat there. That's foam that has been kicked up so much air
Going that way, 'cause they usually
put into the water.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Down there, so wouldn't interfere with them.
All those little bubbles came up. When we were there, we could hear it. It sounded almost like a carbonated lake, carbonated water.
What is all that stuff floating on the water there?
Now he's going to talk.
Does
I
that
talk
come
about
down
it.
here from the mangroves, or is that something else? All around the boat, see all that stuff on the
Well,
water?
that's just foam that he's kicked up.
Oh, is it? Okay.
He's done that with air in the water. It'll go away.
Yeah.
He's churning up a lot of air. You would think that this thing could maybe go. They
Could
probably
lift it,
couldn't
so.
pick it up, but they could lift a lot of weight off of it.
Yeah, they might just be in the way too.
Well, it's possible. I would like to help, but I would be in the way.
Yeah.
I don't know what I could do to help to stay out of the way. These guys, these towboat guys, they are amazing. How they handle a boat.
Yep.
I mean, they can put that thing.
Yeah, I've seen them come in. We were at the marina one day, and they came in with a boat, like, tied to the side of them, and took them right up to the marina there. And then another time I've seen them pulling them through there, just the boat right behind them. they know which way to hook up for whatever kind of boat they're
I
going.
had this thing towed when I went and got that motor. And one of them guys came and towed me over to the boat ramp over by Sam's.
Yeah.
And now he towed me behind him all the way. Now he pulled me up pretty close when we went through Fifth Isle over there.
Yeah.
That's so narrow.
Right.
And he had me up probably about 6 feet from behind his boat. And we went through there. And anyway, we went out and we got out to the wooden, he just followed the channel out to the wooden, whatever they call that thing.
Yeah.
And then he went north, and actually it was tight, just about like what we got. And he went north just 200, 300 feet, and then came right straight in towards the condos. And when we got to the condos, well actually, I followed him all the way around, but just as we got into the bay where the ramp was, he pulled me up alongside of him and tied off to the side of him, and he brought me up to the pier like that, with the side. I tell you what, and the way, just like he's doing now, that boat's just sitting there like that.
Yep.
I can't do that. I wish I could. I mean, they are so good. And that guy that came up here and told me, he sat right there, and of course, kind of was running with it. He just knew just exactly how much to hit those engines, and that boat just sit there.
Yep.
I mean, I couldn't believe that. It'd start to go sideways, he'd turn the engines a little bit, just hit it either forward or backward, whichever way.
Yeah.
They just amaze me how they can handle those boats.
Yeah. Well, they were sitting behind my boat doing something this morning when I noticed them, and my dog started barking. So I went and looked out, and there they were. They were sitting like right behind my boat. I'm like, "Who's messing with my boat?" And then I saw that it was them. I figured, oh, they're just gearing up.
Up the canal. I was hoping this thing would reappear, so if anybody did go out, they could see it.
Yeah.
And I saw them coming up the canal. He stayed on that side, but he was really far over there.
Yeah.
And
If you look right in front of the boat now, but farther back, you can see the scuba diver swimming over towards where the barge is. I'm not really sure what he's doing at this point.
I wonder what he's doing to attach that bag to, because that's just a damn barge.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I suppose it's got a hole somewhere they can put it into.
I
But
heard him saying something about putting it on the boom. But that would just raise the boom up, I think, and lever it around.
well, you know what? If they got that boom up and got it where it was sitting on the bottom, it'd probably be easier to drag
Yeah.
than dragging it on its side like it is. That could be something these guys could do, is pick that thing up. That's what sunk that boat, was that boom.
Yeah, that weight shifted and swung around.
Yes, he would. I think the guy that had the hold of the boom, I don't know where the boom broke, because he had it. He was trying to offset the weight with it. If you watch when you get right through here, he had it pointing east actually, and it actually had leveled the boat a little bit. I said, well, he was getting a a counterbalance, and then all of a sudden when the boom came back around and went to the same side as the water, I mean, it was all over with.
Yeah.
So what he's doing over there right now is attaching one of the bags to the barge, and then they have a hose that they run out to it, and they inflate the bag.
Good wind not to come along. You could set your camera right there on the back of your boat, or
Using their
over here
scuba
somewhere
tank.
and get it really good.
You might try it on the seat.
Or you could, whatever. But
Well,
the sun is still a little bit bright in this direction. Is he tied off on her dock? Yeah. I heard her telling him he could tie off.
Yeah, I was saying they inflate those bags with the scuba tank, but when they wind up later on putting a bunch of bags on there, they have air compressors that they start up with hoses going out, multiple hoses to the bags at one time.
yeah, 225s.
Yeah, 450.
Well, I don't think he was giving it everything that he had.
Oh, he wasn't. If he did in his rope snap, he would be up on plane in just a second.
Yeah. I think he would be fastening up on the throttles.
Lift your boat up?
Put it down
Oh.
and go sit on it. Not in the water. When you put it on board.
Yeah.
The boat that he's lowering right now is behind us. He has a pontoon boat there, and he's going to sit on the seat. It's more comfortable than standing there on the dock. Several times during this, I thought about getting on my kayak or on my boat and getting out there and trying to get closer shots. But I was afraid of snapping cables and everything else. I did not want to be in any kind of danger zone. Would ruin my Saturday. Besides, I'd have to keep bringing my boat back up to my dock so I could go in and get a margarita. This canal, all of the canals in this neighborhood is called Leisure Beach, and all of the canals in Leisure Beach are about 150 feet wide. So that made it a little more difficult for me to film it because
We're filling up with air now.
we're so far away.
It's filling up with air now.
But when you live in here, you appreciate that extra room. Some of the other neighborhoods here in Hudson, there's barely enough room for two boats to pass each other with people with their docks and lifts out into the water as well. Legally, you're allowed to go out, I think it's a third of the way your dock can go out into the waterway, a third of the way across the total width of the canal. So theoretically, we could go 50 feet out. Nobody does in this neighborhood because that's just huge dock. But In theory, we could, but in some of the other neighborhoods, they do go their full 1/3, but they might only have a 75-foot canal or a 100-foot canal. And so that makes for a real tight passage sometimes when there's two larger boats passing each other at the same time, especially with some of these weekend boaters that don't take their boats out very much. You may notice that I've got on a different shirt now. Actually, I just put a sweater on. We had a little bit of a cold snap the last couple of days. We had some strong tropical storms. No flooding or no winds that did any damage to anybody close by that I know of, at least not in our neighborhood here. Did have a few things floating in the canal that people had to retrieve that came off of their back decks. Nothing major though. For a lot of this, like I said before, I'm going to sit here and probably not say a whole lot if there's dialogue happening in the back. Don't want to talk over anything important. You can see the diver swimming back out to the wreck there now, or the tipped barge.
That boat ain't very wide. They might just tip that boat over too.
Well, he put the wing on it.
Yeah.
He'd have to stop it before it sank. He could put a lot of weight on it. That's the water.
If anybody sees that little white dot down on
They
the...
might try something with it once they get it over here. He might, once he pulls the boat over here, he might try to lift it up then. Because over here they said the water was 15 feet deep. And where he's at over there, he can put those stabilizers down on his barge on that one and hold his barge more stable to do some lifting.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You know, now the white dot has went away, but if anybody sees that white dot that's showing up on the camera and can maybe tell me what you think is causing that, I think it might have just been glare or reflection or something. I stopped the camera multiple times and cleaned the lens thinking there was something on the lens, but I don't know what that is. It's not always there, but when I aim the camera a little more down, it seems to go away. That's why I think it's a reflection.
Yep.
the day that all this happened was a lot nicer day than today here. It's a little bit chilly. It's about 57 or 58 outside right now, which for a Florida boy like me, that's cold. We've got it, I think it's about 68 in the house right now. We haven't had to turn the heat on at all year. And we're now to the middle of January.
Okay, they're filling up the second bag now. Looks like I might see the boom starting to show up. Right there on the left-hand side. It looks like something's coming out of the water. I don't know if that's the boom, or if that's part of the actual barge. It's too far east. I think it's part of the boom.
That, if you can hear it, that background noise that's going on right now on this feed where I'm talking is the people who
Something coming up.
have the barge. They're still across the canal working on the dock that they were building.
Looks like he's hooking his air hose on the boat. He's hooking his air hose up to another tank. He's hooking his air hose up to another tank in the boat.
Keep the weight off the bottom. Drag it in the water. Be good.
The neighbor you hear me talking to in this video
The diver's going over there.
is a retired engineer.
Be very close to it at this point.
He's really smart, knows how to do a lot of stuff.
Getting up in the rigging if it shifts. He just said that each bag will lift 4,500 pounds. So he's got a total of 9,000 pounds of lift on it. It could also be their bag placement. It could also be their bag placement
Well, it could be.
But does that look like the back end of the end of the boat, or does that look like part of the boom?
That's easy.
No, the thing going off on the east.
The east is the extreme left-hand side.
Not sure what.
Yeah, I think they got that second boom, or that one big balloon there, wrapped around the boom, trying to lift the boom up. I can't tell though.
I would think that once those balloons come out of the water, they lose effect. I don't know. Maybe I'll start filming something here.
Yeah.
Maybe something will happen.
I'm drinking Pepsi, but they don't pay me anything. It's just my drink of choice.
It's changing a little bit. It looks like the boom on the other side of that bag too. So that's the main part of the boat, of the barge, to the left of the bag. I think.
The noise in the background is the other barge, and they are lifting up one of their support stabilizers. It goes down and sticks into the bottom of the canal. They have them at all four corners of the barge. Some barges only have it on two corners, but yeah, it sounds like he's cranking up the other one.
your camera ready.
Besides somebody catching a big snook or a sheep's head or redfish or a trout, this barge tipping over was one of the most exciting things that's happened around here in a while. That noise was the stabilizer on the barge going back down. So they've repositioned their barge, which is off camera, and they're dropping the stabilizers down to the bottom. Now he's trying to pull the barge. You can see the boom coming up. So he's got the boom standing up pretty good. One of them, which may be the only one left on it, I can't remember, because they took a bunch of stuff off. I also see something else laying across there. That might be, I can't remember if that was the auger or if they've already taken that off too. We'll see later in the video if they take it off. And we'll know that one thing laying across that balloon is probably the auger that they used to dig the hole in the seafloor for the post for the dock or lift.
Yeah, we need to be on the other side of the canal.
At this point he's pulling again, and I'm not really sure what they're trying to accomplish here.
Sounds like carbonated water. Sounds like carbonated water. Water. You can hear it fizzing. All the air in it. Stirring up a lot of silt too. Came loose. Something came loose.
his tow chain or rope, whatever he was using, came loose from the boat or from the barge, one or the other. One somewhere it came loose or broke. I'm assuming probably one of those big carabiners or something gave way.
I do need to retake it. I got this power washer retaking that. Now, if they had done this, like I did that, I painted it on the little boards. Before I
It's starting to pull it again.
He's kind of pulling it down that canal that goes off to the east. But it doesn't look to me like it's moving very much, if at all. You can see the diver to the left of that white PVC pole there. Looks like he's getting ready to do another pull. Yeah, there his engines are revving up again. It might have moved a little bit. Didn't see much movement there.
Wow.
I got a net with a 18-foot handle on it if you need it. Okay. Yeah. No, it's both of them are going right straight to her. There's two things I see. One of them looks like just a can or something. What is that, a water bottle or something? Oh. Yep.
Every time they pull on the boat a little bit, things that were on it are coming loose.
Brake cleaner, I thought she said one of them was. Brake cleaner? That stuff's pretty costly. Yeah. Well, it's... No, I'm talking... I said it was pretty... The brake cleaner was pretty costly.
Oh, it's costly.
Yeah, I mean, you spray that on something, it just...
Yeah.
Luckily, everything that was in the water was pretty well sealed up and pulled out. The cans were sealed, so we didn't have a major environmental disaster here, or even a minor one. Here we are. They've got the barge over there. The second barge, the one that did not sink, and they're pulling things off of the sunken barge. It's kind of hard to get a good angle on this one. I believe what they just pulled off of there was the auger that was used to dig the holes into the bottom of the canal to put the upright posts in. Or it could be one of the booms, I'm not sure. They did wind up pulling an auger off of there, and I believe they also pulled the boom off, plus some of the stabilizing rods that I had mentioned before that go in at the corners and go down into the bottom of the canal just to hold the barge steady, to stabilize it. Trying to move for a better angle here. It's hard to get one. This camera that I'm using at the moment is one of the, it's a GoPro knockoff. Akasa, I think, is the brand. My cell phone camera was either, the battery had either went dead at this point, or the memory was full. The model cell phone camera that I have does not have SD cards, so I wasn't able to just swap them out. I had to do an upload. So while those uploads were happening, I was using the GoPro style camera, which is not as steady because I don't have a gimbal for it like I do on my cell phone. Anytime you see that date and time in the lower right hand corner, which is not showing with my face down there, it looks like, you would know that I was on the GoPro camera, GoPro knockoff. The date and time showing on this right now is January the 8th at 10:58 a.m. We're going back down to get the Seaco boat, because he parked it down at the end down there somewhere. Okay, I moved my picture to the upper right, my little talking head, so you guys can see the date and time when it is available down there on the lower right. They are still around the sunken barge with the other barge. Looks like they're still trying to pull things off of it that they can. Probably things so it won't get hung up when they're dragging it, and also to maybe take some more weight off of it. Their eventual plan, I think, looks to me like at this point they're going to want to float the barge and then pull it to wherever they're going to pull it to. I suspect they'll pull it back to the job site, which is just 100 yards or so to the left in this picture, to the north. And then I assume they will do some final prep on it before they take it back to their location, whether they repower it with a new motor, because I'm sure that motor is pretty well messed up, the one that was on it when it sunk, or they may come and attach to it and actually tow it to their location to work on it. But I think initially they're probably going to take it to the job site that they were working on just before this occurred, because they are still working on the dock there. The boat lift is done, but the dock is still being worked on. Standing at my neighbor's tiki bar. Don't know why I had my camera aimed down there, but I did. That noise was one of the stabilizers on the barge that is floating, going down to lock into the canal floor to keep the barge from moving. They generally plant those just before they try to lift something heavy. It keeps the barge stable. You can see the two guys at the front of the barge there. They're trying to get things positioned. It's hard to tell for sure, but I think they're trying to get a rope or a strap or a chain or something attached to something there they're getting ready to pick up. Looks like they may have just pulled one of the stabilizer legs off of the other barge. I see something there that one of them's holding on to. See if they bring that back over and set it down on their barge now. Yeah, it looks like they've laid it down. Every time they remove something like that, it's that much less weight that they have to float up. Plus, it's fewer things that any scuba diver that's swimming around by that barge could potentially get hung up on. Especially if there was a shift while he was up close to the barge. He wouldn't want to be trapped underneath one of those long metal poles or booms or anything like that. And it looks like they may have another one there they're laying down. pretty breezy this day. So you can hear the wind noise in the background. And I haven't seen very many boats right at this point, but any boats that you see, if they try to maintain a position, sometimes they are bumping their engine backwards, forwards, turning to the side. Although the U.S. boat driver, U.S. towboat driver, he's really good about keeping his boat positioned. At this point in this video, he is to the left, off camera. At least I believe, I remember that's where he was when this was being filmed. You can see there, one of the guys on the barge has slipped down into the water. He didn't really slip, he climbed down into the water. He's going around hooking up to things that they're going to pull off of that barge. And he's not wearing any kind of scuba gear or anything, so everything he's doing, he's got to just be able to do it right near the surface or just hold his breath to go down to do it. At this point, I believe he's actually standing on part of the barge. Now I've moved over to a dock for a different angle. Still having to use the Akasa camera. This camera is nowhere near the quality of the other camera since I do not have a gimbal, and it does not zoom. I'm not sure if it zooms at all. It definitely does not zoom well. You can see the Towboat USA over there. Looks like he's starting to move. Yeah. Maybe not. He moved forward a little bit, now he's backing back up again. you look across the way there on that point where the two canals meet, there are some guys standing there behind that house, and they've got a bunch more airbags laid out. And at this point I think they have one compressor there. They eventually bring a second compressor that they use to inflate the airbags. See a guy now walking over towards them. While we're waiting on this, I just want to point out that when you look down south, straight down the canal there, kind of blocked by that boat lift with the pontoon boat on it, but at the very end of the canal it dead ends into an area that's part of a state park, and there's a lot of mangroves in there, and depending on the tide you can go all up in there for sure in your kayaks. My flats boat will go in there, little Carolina skiffs, people on rowboats, stuff like that, and no, it is just loaded up with trout. Certain times of the year there's sheep's head and snook. If you go down to the end of that canal, turn to your right, and then you're going to still be running right along that line of mangroves, and then there will be another canal that'll go back off to your right, and right there's a break, a cut into the mangrove area, and my boat goes through there with no problem at all. A couple places you got to look out for rocks, but the snook will just stack up there almost every single day. And all along that canal there it's loaded up with snook all the time. And certain spots, the sheep's head, which are really good eating fish, are there. You go a little bit further, you're going to come to State Creek Channel, and that channel, you take it out, and where it makes its first little jog, without giving away too much of where the fishing spots are, there's some places there where there's a lot of mangrove snapper, and the flounder, they like to get into those areas up there where there's a grass flat and then kind of an open spot in there. It almost looks like a crater when you're going over it, but there's an open spot in there where it's a sandy bottom, and the flounder will be in there. All over the flats there's trout all the time, spotted trout, sea trout. Our canal, we get a daily visit, almost daily visit, from some dolphins that come up in here to feed on the bait fish that are in here. We have a lot of smaller flounder and pinfish and mullet. It's just loaded up with mullet most of the time. And the dolphins will come through here, and you'll see them go up one side and then down the other, and they do that on almost every canal, as far as I know, in this neighborhood. Definitely our canal. A lot of people don't eat mullet, but I grew up eating mullet. I love fried mullet and smoked mullet. There's some really nice big smoking sized mullet in our canal. They seem to have gotten pretty smart though. They like to hang around right underneath my boat on the lift where I can't very well throw my cast net. And they generally will not take a fish hook. They're vegetarians. I did catch one here within the last month or so, last few weeks actually, on a bread ball on a hook. I was just out there playing around one day with some other little baby flounders and put a bread ball on a small hook, and they were eating it, but they kept robbing the bread ball off. And one time I dropped it down and this mullet just came flying out from underneath my dock and hit that hook, and I caught him, so he became dinner that night. You don't get any fresher than pulling them right out at your back door, taking them and processing them, and take them in and eat them within an hour after you've caught them. I've never done it, but some of the guys that I kayak with, they will go out and they'll catch a fish, and they actually have the stuff on their kayak with them to make ceviche, which does not require any kind of heat source or flame. It's all done with the chemicals within whatever they're using as the marinade or the sauce for it. And they'll fix ceviche and eat it right there on their kayak. So I guess that's maybe even fresher than taking it in the house and eating it. Okay, now this is a little after noon, 12:15, 12:16. And you can see there looks like that barge is getting a little bit higher out of the water. The neighbor that I'm on his back deck right now, he has a really nice setup. Nice covered area, picnic table, a couple of lifts, a couple docks. He's lived here a couple more years than me. We've got our deck all done in a fire pit.
I heard him say earlier that the 2 bags that he's got on it, they each support 4,500 pounds. So that's 9,000 pounds that those 2 would float up. Yeah. But now they're mostly out of the water now, so they're obviously not giving.
Well, I think he said it underneath something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a whole lot more effective if the bags were in the water.
Yeah, but he's got to have something to attach it to.
Yeah.
So I was saying we have our deck done, but we're still working on getting everything else, our deck and our fire pit.
Yeah, with Towboat US earlier, they had that guy with the scuba tank and all on.
Yeah, yeah. So I think this guy probably does do that too.
Yeah.
In his past. If he's not doing it now. Hold it down. Still waiting to get off.
We did have what seemed like more boat traffic than normal when this was going on. Now you can hear in the background, you can hear the compressor running. They have a gas-powered compressor. They're trying to float the barge now.
They got 4 air hoses there. There must be 4 airbags under there. In addition to the 2 that's already there. Yeah. Wonder if it's the bag that's leaking, or if it's this hose, or one of the fittings.
It's not evident in the movie, but there you can see some bubbles coming up in a couple places. We think that there may be a leak. But if the barge is tilting, it could have also been air escaping from parts of the barge. We were unclear. They're still pumping up the airbags now. You can tell this one is a camera not on a gimbal, as I'm walking out onto this other dock to try to get a better view. See that flag straight ahead there, windsock, and see that the wind has died down a little bit, but it is still coming in on the canal. You can see the water rippling a little bit, not much. Very pleasant day here right by the Gulf of Mexico. Can hear they just idled the motor down on the compressor that's filling up those airbags. And the diver swam on out to the barge. Must be gonna make an adjustment or check a fitting or something. Switched back over to the camera with the gimbal. Much better zooming capabilities.
See it moving now?
This is about a 4x zoom, I believe, if I remember correctly.
What's that sun going now?
Yeah.
This was a little later in the day on Saturday, I believe. We're discussing that it's getting a little bit cooler. The sun's about to go down within the next, I don't remember exactly what time this was, but It's getting approaching sundown.
Can I get through there?
No, next.
I got none light in there, program. Color light.
I'll take a bite.
What?
Yeah. I can't wait to make our backyard look like this. We really want to do something to get some shade.
I lied, Mike. I got Bud Light, but I don't have any Coke. I got Coors Light,
Either one's fine. I don't.
and that's Coke. And then I put some Bud in there to get Coke. I thought, I can't believe I didn't do that. I'm not keeping up with my job. Hey, I'm not fishing like that. I'll turn it off. It's not my type of fishing.
Yeah. We're gonna see if we can pull this now.
Yeah, now you got a hold of the post.
If anything, it's gonna start tipping.
He's got some
It is
leverage.
moving. Look at it. Look at it. It's
Yeah,
moving.
that's what I say. He's got some leverage there. That tower ain't gonna stay on there.
At this point, they were able to pull the barge a little ways. I apologize for the trouble with the audio on the part that we just went through. I lost a bunch of audio there.
Well, I'll give it a test.
He did move it a little ways. I think. Pretty sure it moved. Yeah, because it. Yeah, it's moving.
It moved a little bit there.
Yeah, and then it backed up.
He can get it. Come on, give her a little more. She's trying. A little more. There you go. Yeah, give her another shot. She's going. Get her going. Get her going. Keep it dragging. Ah, right. He got it going. He needs to keep it going once it starts. Come on, once it starts going, you gotta go.
think he's afraid of that tower snapping loose or something. It looks like it's kind of digging in there. See how the front end goes down when it...
He actually moved it. Now it's going back that way.
Yeah, I see all the bubbles coming out of the side on the back.
The balloon is coming up on the other side.
Yeah, there's a bunch of bubbles coming up there. I can see it on the back.
Yeah, once he got it moving, he has to keep it moving.
That's expensive.
That's tons of not lights. It ain't gonna come undone now. Yeah, you're gonna have to go undo it. It won't do it on its own.
He's gonna go up to it and untie it.
Huh?
He's gonna go up to it and untie it. He can stand off the front of the boat and probably reach it.
Yeah, you let that rope be in a loop and it just won't undo itself from the loop. Yeah, that's what you should have done before you hold on it. I guess, I don't know, we can't lose all those bags on that thing. There's a ton of bags, there's thousands of dollars worth of bags on that thing.
There was another spot there where I lost audio.
Yeah, that's very well done for today. I'm wondering if he hasn't turned that thing, because now that,
Well, I think it turned some.
I'm sure.
I think it turned a little
It's going that way, so it's still, but it is sitting up.
Yeah. I think it's facing more east now.
Yes, it's set right side up and facing east.
Again, this is another silence, and I don't know what happened, if it's something that was wrong with the actual recording or if it was something that I did in the editing phase. Not real experienced with the editing software. Now this is again taken from another dock. This is from my next door neighbor's dock. And this is the next morning, so this is Sunday morning. You can see one of the bags has floated loose from the barge, and they've got it over by the Towboat US boat right now. I don't know if that became detached accidentally or if they took it off of there because it was not effective the way that it was attached. I walked out after it was already detached. You can see that they've actually moved the barge over by the shore. They've got a lot more of it up out of the water. Again, I don't know what their plan is from here. They're going to start cutting it down, or up, I mean, hauling it out of there, or exactly what they're going to do. Like I just said there, I imagine that since they have it floating, they may be able to pull it out of here, but I'm not sure. It's a long ways to get it to a ramp somewhere. But they may be able to pull it somewhere where they can get a crane up close to the shore to pull it out. Just not right here, not without having to go over the top of the houses, which I doubt they would ever do. About it right now. There's nothing going on. They don't have their compressors running or anything. So I will stop filming again for a while. We'll come back out if there's any more activity. On this day, just showing some of the progress that they've made. I had family coming over. Got it pretty high up out of the water. Can't tell still what their plan is, what they're going to do. On this day I had family coming over, so I was only able to film in short segments. You can see that the sun is up much higher in the sky now than it was. So this is a little later on Sunday. And again, another short segment. You can see them over there with a pump, pumping water out of the boat, out of the barge, I mean, which should raise it even higher out of the water. At this point, I began to realize that possibly they weren't going to take it out of the canal. They were going to get it totally up and floating and seaworthy again. But I wasn't sure. Just really did not know what their final plan was. Now this is from my dock. I had lost my perch on the other dock. Plus I think at this point my family was already here. So I could only go out and do short segments. I had to keep going back in. That's my wife's dog in the background. It's our dog, but it's really her dog. You can see that barge is getting higher and higher with every gallon they pump out of it. Again, more traffic on our canal than we usually see. A lot of people coming by to see what's going on. There's a couple of Facebook groups for the neighborhood, the subdivision, and the news of the barge is all over the Facebook groups. So everybody's got to come around and look. Having to get my vantage point between my poling platform on my flats boat and the uprights for my lift. He's able to pull it there with that rope. So they're getting it up there. People coming out here to check it out. I see people on their kayaks out today. Down there, down the canal a ways. And the people on the jet ski that came by just a couple minutes ago. People behind them over there on their kayaks. Boats, the barge is getting higher and higher out of the water. Well, when Bob comes back, I'll ask him where he bought it.
From some guy St. Pete. So look, they even have the mountain boats on the holes on the strip up there, and that's where I took my table off of.
Funny thing here, my brother-in-law looked over 2 houses down and saw a pontoon boat on a lift, and we found out that it was actually a boat that he used to own.
You got any pictures?
And he sold it to somebody in St. Pete. And the neighbor bought it from the guy in St. Pete. We confirmed it by the numbers on the boat. It was the same boat.
The front gate has a flap that comes up because there's a place to mount a trolling motor. So you lift that flap up, lay that thing down, close it up, flap back. I believe that was my boat.
He's not there right now. see that it's much more out of the water now. I went in the house, came back out, and they had pulled the barge down to the original job site, which is right across from my house. I'm trying to get a better shot of the barge walking over to the side. I'm over at my neighbor's house right now. And you can see the barge there once the towboat left. Well, that was the end of the video. If you liked the video, please press like and subscribe. If you have any questions about anything that I had on here, let me know. I'll see if there's any way that I can answer them. And come back and look at some more of my videos. Thank you.